Okay, so what we're looking at our stock 340 piston. This is one I cleaned up. I just been using 409, little brush, some Scotch-Brite. One thing about these old Mopar pistons, this is your 68 to, I believe, late 71. Or 68 to 71. If you look, you can see there's a little dome there. I believe this protrudes up above the engine deck by 18 thousandths of an inch. One of the tricks with these engines to raise compression was you would change the piston. So here I have a TRW L2322. This is a 30 over TRW that would have been used back in the day, 70s, 80s, but look how much higher that dome is than stock. I believe these are 11-to-1 compression. There's that dome. Comes up into the wedge cylinder head. Here's the stock dome. So you can see, I don't know if you can see the difference. Let me put the domes. I don't know if you can see that. I think you can. You can see how one would go up into the wedge chamber more than the other. So that was the trick. These are open open wedge chamber heads, so your piston will fit up. The piston floor there would fit up inside the chamber. You can get more compression. That was a trick with Mopar. If you're not going to change the rod, stick with the standard stroke, change the piston, get higher compression. You can also do the same and put flat tops in, which the later 340 was. It was a flat top with valve reliefs. And your 318s are flat top. Actually, I think your 360s are dished. Just some differences between the LA engines. But what we're doing, we're going to clean these up. Here's a dirty one. This is what they look like. This is a dirty one. This is the one that's been cleaned up. I'm going to clean on them some more. We'll get into the full floating rods and how they go together. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to demonstrate how to install the rings. So on here is an oil expansion ring. Looks kind of like train tracks. This is my 30 over piston. This is just for demonstration only. It'll be the same for all the pistons. So the piston's going to be marked, or the rings will be marked. I'm going to try and see if I can get a new ring and show you the marks on it. I do have a Hastings ring set laying around somewhere. Did you see? Basically take the ring, set it over the top, get your thumbs between, and you're going to spread outward. Push it down over. And that train track's got a butt. And then this will go on the bottom side. And then pretty much all there is to it. But as you can see, there we go. Alright, so I'm on the bottom side of that train track ring all the way around. And make sure all right, I'm gonna pull it down. Okay, yeah, it's butted. All right, so We'll get the book out then, but these rings should be 45-degree offset, at least. Well, we'll check the book. You can adjust the rings after they're on. But generally, there'll be a ring gap here, the top oil ring. And then we'll flip it over, and the middle and top ring will be gapped here and here, if that makes sense. It's an easy way to remember it. So, all right, see, I don't know. So I got a ring gap here, and they are 90 degrees if you look down on the axis. These, the middle and top ring, I'll have a chamfer. Chamfer always goes up. So these rings you want to watch, because these will shatter like a chicken bone. So just carefully expand it. Again, this is my 30 over TRW piston. I'm doing this for demonstration purposes. So what happened was I bought my piston set. They were used and they came with a set of brand new rings on them. I'm going to end up taking the rings off to make sure they're installed properly before I knock them into the engine. And you'll probably see that in the video too. Chamfer up. I don't know if you can see. There's a chamfer, which is an angle, beveled edge on the inside. Let's see if I can zoom that in. See that chamfer goes up. It's not on that side, so. Your ring set should be labeled. You know, oil ring, top ring, middle. These rings are used. They were ran for a little while when I had these pistons in the engine. I have since put modern Keith Blacks in it. These old TRWs generally are heavy. But the ring will have a dot on it, and usually the dot faces up and the chamfer faces up. So yeah, and again, your gap will be right along this edge and then over here. And when you look down on them, they're going to intersect at 90-degree angles, your gaps. So the oil rings are on this side at 90-degree angles. And then your middle and top ring. I usually just line them up with this casting line in the piston. And that's it. That is your piston ring installation, quick and dirty. Another view of these domes. You can see the one on the right's a higher compression piston, the TRW 30 over. The one on the left, stock Mopar 340 stock bore. The compression chambers and the heads varied on these heads, anywhere from 65 to 72 cc roughly. And the compression ratio with these pistons should be about 10 to 1. But it varies. You'd have to calculate it. If you wanted exact in your engine, you'd have to CC the heads and do the math and figure that out. But the 340 was like 10 to 1, 10 and a half to 1, something like that. Okay, real quick. So what we're looking at a set of Hastings. It's a single set for a single piston. It is a Buick Chrysler 4.040 thousandths of an inch bore, which is your standard 340 Chrysler bore. So I'm working with a standard bore with a little bit of taper. I'm going to put standard rings in it. So I wanted to show you this. So there, top ring number 1, middle ring number 2, And number 3 is your oil control rings. So your top ring, amazingly enough on this, it doesn't look like it has a chamfer at all. And the second ring is marked top. It's marked top right there. I don't know if you can see it, but then it has a chamfer that goes down. And then your oil control ring, kind of corrugated with 2 thin rings, and that'll sandwich together. Like so. So the point of all this is read the instructions on their particular set of rings. I have said in the video that the chamfers of the top rings go up, but on this set it goes down. I have installed rings with the chamfers of the top 2 rings up, both of them, and they've worked fine. But again, use your own judgment. Like I said, I've installed them both with chamfers up. This one here didn't have a chamfer on the top ring. Second ring down, the chamfer went down. So that's Hastings. That's that particular brand installation method. But I just wanted to share that with you because the point is follow the ring manufacturer's installation instructions. But if you have a set of rings and no instructions, you want to run both chamfers up, that's fine. If you want to run the top one up, the bottom one down, that's fine. I believe it would work. And like I said, I've ran them before with both chamfers up on the top 2 rings. And they work fine. So the top 2 rings are compression rings. The thin ring with the corrugated center on the bottom is your oil control ring. People will say the second ring down is an oil control ring, but it really isn't. Top 2 rings are compression rings. You stagger the gaps, and they should seal up good where you don't have much blow by on your power stroke. When that fuel ignites in the cylinder, those gaps should be so tight and staggered that not much leaks past down into the crankcase. So that's the general idea with that. Okay, so these are full floating wrist pin. That means I could take this pin in and out, clean it up, and then reinstall the connecting rod. Again, these are used parts. I think they're serviceable. They're not going to clean up perfect, but they're not new. It's stock Mopar stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and assemble this rod onto this piston and show you guys how to do it. Okay, so on the pistons, I don't know if you could see it. There's 2 little cast notches. That goes forward. So this identifies this piston as going in the left bank of the driver's side of the engine. The connecting rods over there will be 1, 3, 5, and 7. This one's numbered number 3. I don't know if you can see it on there. It's stamped. There's a little oil hole. Oil will squirt on the opposite cylinder, so that oil hole has to face in, and it has to go on the piston like this. So 3 out, valve release facing inboard, where the where the lifter valve is going to be. Notches facing forward. I'm going to go ahead and knock this in. Snap ring goes in the outside edge. If you've ever done U-joints, there's a little groove in there. Same type idea. Getting it in there square. Yeah, there it is. Snap rings in. See it. It's in the groove. It's expanded open. You can tell if the ends aren't, you know, semi-wide, that they're not in right. So, again, notches facing forward. Permatex Ultra Slick engine assembly lube. Gonna squirt some on here on the wrist pin. The wrist pin's a little, you know, dirty, but okay, this is brand new. You could also use motor oil on the wrist pins. Permatex Ultra Slick. I'm gonna put a dab, just a dab, because I don't want to use too much of this. But, and then, so the notches are facing up. Oil holes facing in. I'm gonna take and just start tapping it down through here. Block of wood. Once it gets down in there, you'll kind of center the rod on it. So it's slicked up with that lube. It's actually going pretty good. And then wooden 5/8 dowel with tape on it. Kind of went right down in there. All right. Then we'll get another snap ring. If you want, you can stagger your snap ring gaps. Main thing is to make sure they're in that groove, not cocked half in, half out, and that they're fully expanded. As you can see, everything's loose. That's a full floating wrist pin. And you can kind of grab on them and twist. You can check them for play. A little side-to-side play is normal. What you want to avoid is the pin walking out and scoring your bore. So you want to make sure them snap rings are in that groove properly. And again, your ring gaps. As long as they're 90-degree offset from each other, it's good to go. I think we're going to run that piston like that. Looking good. Okay, so we have our 8 pistons assembled, ready to go. I wish I could tell you more about press pins. I can tell you the few times I worked with them, I never disassembled the rod from the piston. I just cleaned everything up and reused them. You really have no need to disassemble them unless you have some sort of worn wrist pin, and you will check them by you would grab them and like try to twist the rod, like say now it's at 6 and 12, try and twist it 3 and 9, feel for any play, feel for any up and down play. There's really nothing there. They're nice and tight, the press fit's nice, they're nice and lubed, they're loose. You want a nice loose piston. The press fit pistons, if you let them sit, they may get tight on you. You can free that up with PB Blast or WD-40, let them soak. So anyway, yeah, the oil hole's there. This is cylinder number 1, so this would go on the driver's side. The notches are facing inboard, or the valve reliefs are facing inboard, the notches are facing forward. So all your odd number pistons will look like this, and the mine are stamped 1, 3, 5, 7, driver's side. These are as clean as I could get them, or as clean as I'm gonna get them. Another thing, there is a chamfer. This will go to the outside of the rod journal. Even numbers are going to go to the back, so you got to make sure those the chamfers are facing forward on the driver's side and to the back side on the passenger side, odd and even. So driver's side's odd, passenger side's even. What else? There's a chamfer on the rings, the 2 top rings. The chamfers will face up. I don't know if you can see that, probably can't. Your ring pack should be labeled top, middle, or top, middle ring, and then you know, your oil rings. This is an old piston. Another thing you're going to want to do, you take an old ring like this, you can break it off and you can make a scraper. Get down in that ring, land, and scrape any carbon out of there. Yeah, you can break this off, have a little piece. You can grind a little angle on it and get it down in there and just scrape. Go around the ring lands, make sure there's no carbon in there if you're going to reuse old pistons. And that's pretty much it for the piston assembly. Like I said, these are as clean as I'm going to get them, or as clean as I'm going to do by hand without glass beading them, all that. But that is what we're working with. Stock 340 pistons on stock 340 rods.